8, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Right Fit Podcast. I'm your host, Darryl Jacobs. Join me every Friday, New Eastern Time, with decision makers from the world of athletics, both from collegiate and professional sports. But joining me today is my good friend, the Vice President of Athletics and Recreation at the University of New Orleans, Mr. Tim Duncan. Tim, welcome to the Right Fit.
DJ, what's going on, my man? Thanks for having me. I really
No
appreciate
problem, man. I'm looking forward to getting to the Final Four, and you've been hosting a lot of stuff this year with everything going on there from the Mardi Gras, and now you got the Final Four coming to your illustrious town. But before we get to the Q&A, I want you to talk a little bit briefly about your journey into athletics and why.
Yeah, man. I think I have what they call a non-traditional path. I was a student athlete, as you know, at what used to be Memphis State University. Now it's University of Memphis. I had the pleasure of playing with Penny Hardaway, who's a fantastic teammate, a really good coach, and just a good person. So we had some success, and I was ill prepared after graduation. So as a kid, my parents instilled in me that you were going to go to college and graduate. I did, but the next day I didn't know what I was going to do. So I ended up playing some semi-pro basketball in the USVL. You remember that league. You probably remember one of my teammates, Chris Childs. I played with
I sure do. Former New York Net, New Jersey Net at the time. I'm going to say New York Net. I'm taking it way back to when I was a kid when they was out in Long Island.
But played with New Jersey Nets, man. Chris Childs is a good dude, so I played with him a little bit, man. It wasn't, I knew I wasn't an NBA type of player, and then with my game, which is mostly defensive rebounding, I didn't think overseas would make more sense for me. I came back, worked multiple jobs, and ended up realizing I needed to go to graduate school. I went to Grambling and majored in sports administration. I had my undergraduate degree in marketing, and I got an internship. I had 2 internships. Here's another East Coast story, tri-state area story. I got an unpaid internship at the New Jersey Nets, and I had a paid internship with Russell Athletic. So being a young man who was not allowed
two good companies. Russell, particularly Russell, getting that
and I took the
internship with them really helped. Yeah, that's a good company.
I took the Russell Athletic. I worked there in sports marketing for a year and a half, and then I moved to the R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company and worked on the Winston NASCAR, Winston Cup. So I'd worked for the brand of Winston and worked on NASCAR, and then got several promotions and did other things at the company. And I was there for 5 years, and then started an events marketing company, and R.J. Reynolds was our first client. We did event marketing for them and several other companies. And then that afforded my family and I the opportunity to move back to Memphis from North Carolina. And there I went to call on the Associate AD for Development in Memphis about him talking to some of their donors about supporting my business. And he ended up saying he thought I would be a good fundraiser. And I took a chance, took a big pay cut, and that's how I got started in college athletics. So I was a fundraiser at my alma mater during the time that Derrick Rose was a freshman. And we went to the NCAA championship game. So as you know, a great basketball team is the fundraiser, or a great football team is the fundraiser's best friend. So we had a ton of success that year, and it led me to other opportunities. So I moved up to UNC Wilmington, worked I was over fundraising there. Then I got to be, I did have some success there with AD for the first time in Payne College and HBCU in Augusta, Georgia. Did that for 3 years and became AD at Clayton State in the Atlanta area. I did that for 4 years. And along the way, I'd interviewed for a couple of Division I institutions, and I didn't get them. And I thought the primary reason was because I was a Division II athletic director. As you know, it's a hierarchy, and it's hard to make that jump. Not impossible, but it's really, really hard, particularly for people of color. Jeff Konya was a friend that I've known for a long time. He was the AD. He had just gotten the AD job in Northeastern, and he invited me up there to be the deputy AD for external. So at that level, it was more about the connection. It really wasn't an interview. He spent because I knew him anyway. He knew what I can do. He spent the whole time convincing my wife, a Memphis girl, to move to Boston. So we did it. It was a great year, had some success there. And then the University of a search firm reached out to me about the University of New Orleans. So this is the job that I wanted. Being from Memphis, which is right up the river from here, I'd always seen this institution. We played against Irvin Johnson and Tim Floyd when he was coach back in the day. So I knew they'd had success before, and I thought we could have some success again. And I think we're well on our way for sure.
Well, I've had the pleasure of watching your ascension in collegiate athletics, and watch the journey, and no person is more deserving than the opportunity you have now. And just a little side story, I've had two former players that actually played for the University of New Orleans. Quan Johnson, you probably hear his name around there, who hit a half-court shot. Yeah, he played for me in high school, and so did Jimmy Cliff, who was starting point guard there. So I just wanted to put that out to you. And Tick Price, Tick Price, Coach Price was the coach at the time. So that's
well, what's crazy? Tick Price does our radio.
Yeah.
I asked him to do radio for us, man, and it's been a wonderful marriage. Obviously, I knew him from Memphis. He was after me when he coached at Memphis, but I remember his teams at New Orleans, and I knew him from just being I was a Memphis guy and around the program. So it was a pleasure for us to get someone of his kind of savvy and knowledge of the conference, and then most importantly, he's just a good dude, man.
Just a great guy. Yeah, I do. What a great guy.
Yeah, so we're definitely fortunate.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about, we'll talk about some of the things you have done, especially the Emerging Leaders platform that you really was instrumental behind, and a lot of the coaches, this is the right fit. This is a coaches platform where, we got coaches from every level that's a member of us. But, I want to talk about what does athletics look like at the University of New Orleans. I call it UNO. That's what I used to call it when my guys were playing there, UNO. So what does that look like?
We're a smaller program. We only have 14 sports, of which football is not one. But it's been known for basketball and baseball through the years. It's a 8,000 student public research institution here in New Orleans, surrounded by a bunch of private institutions. New Orleans has a lot of colleges that people don't realize. Obviously, Tulane is here. We're here. Xavier of Louisiana, Dillard, Southern of New Orleans is here. Loyola of New Orleans is here. They're actually number one in the country in NAIA. So there are multiple colleges in a city that has like 350,000, 400,000 people. So it's a lot of competition in this market, not including the professional teams. But we fit in. I think as the largest public institution. We used to be a lot larger. Our enrollment was a lot higher prior to Katrina, and some other financial situations that the state had. So we were about 18,000, and we dropped to around 7, and now we're back up to about a little over 8. So we're going in the right direction, but that definitely affected people's perception of this university. So right after Katrina, during some of the in the 2008 and 9 financial crisis, the university decided to go to Division III, and then or should it go to Division II? So we were in the Sun Belt Conference, and that robbed a lot of us of momentum. And they were beginning the transition process, and then the new president, decided we'd stay at Division I. So in 2012, we joined the Southland Conference, and we've been trying to ascend from them. But as you can imagine, your recruiters, your competition would use that against you. They're Division III, they can't afford it. So it's taken a while to really get to where people know where we are, know that we're still Division I, and trust that we're not going anywhere. So I think that fortunately for me, I was able to hit it at the right time.
Well, they may be confusing you guys with Centenary, who was Division I at one time and ended up going to Division III.
I mean, we were going to do the similar path. I mean, it was pretty public. It was in the newspaper. They had started the transition process, but they just stopped it halfway through. So it definitely robbed us of a lot of momentum. But everything happens the way it's supposed to happen, and I think right now we're on an ascent, and people are getting excited about the University of New Orleans, and we're investigating whether we should start football here. We're the only Division I program in the state without it. So we just completed a feasibility study, and we're looking at results of that and trying to figure out, what that next move would look like.
Well, they couldn't have a better leader within the department to actually get that going
Appreciate
as
it.
well. And I'm sure that if the feasibility study comes back favorable, and if they make it feasible, I know you're going to have a good
Right.
football
That's
program.
the key part of the study is the whole feasibility part.
That's why it's called feasibility study.
Yeah, that's right.
Student fees and all that stuff may go up, and you're gonna, Mr. Sterling Stewart, who's head of your development, is gonna have to get out there and start doing some really yeoman's work right then, as well as institutional advancement as well. But given some of the transition that you guys went through, you just mentioned, one of the things I know coming into that situation is the culture. You have a chance to create your culture. What is the culture like at the University of New Orleans?
Yeah, we care about families, our employee, our team members. I don't call them employees or staff members. We care about our team members, and I let them know directly that family is first. So if someone has a sick kid, they need to go handle that. If they need to bring a kid in the office for a couple of hours because they can't go to daycare, you could do that. I worked in a job before where the leader would not let any kids. So we lived in a city with no family. So that means my wife or I had to take off work and go home. Sometimes that's more difficult to do than others. So we care about families. We care about accountability. I think we have a loving accountability. So while there is accountability with each person's job, we try to communicate that and provide them with the resources and try to help them as much as I can in a way that shows support but still holds them accountable. So that's the way I like to articulate it. I think our communication and transparency has gotten a ton better because that's something that I'm big on. I will try to communicate to our staff, to our team, to our donors, everybody as much as possible. And I told our team that you will know everything that I know. You just may not know it at the same exact time that I know it because I may have to, check off a box here or speak to a person over there. But my immediate team knows everything that I know. And I think that's important because my mantra is not one of us is smarter than all of us together. So I know that, me by myself is not as smart or as talented as the direct reports that I work with on a daily basis.
Let's talk about your interviewing experience. I want you to talk a little bit about your personal interview experience, both as a candidate when you was getting into the business, as well as now as an athletic director leading a athletic program at the Division I level.
Yeah, I think as a candidate, it's changed from depending on what level you're on. When you're entry level to mid management, it is it's about knowing your job. When you get to higher level in leadership, it's more about the right fit, for the lack of.
I always get my guests to end up saying that.
Right. So a part of that, to me, is understanding how to articulate your successes to answer their questions. So while I research and study the institution, because that's very important, they want to know demonstrated examples of how you can accomplish or solve a particular problem that they have. And the best way to do that is to pull an example from your past and articulate it. So when I prepare and when I pray for these opportunities, I always try to open my mind and have it clear so I can, and I'm looking inside my mind when my eyes are closed now, and reach back and pull an example that's relevant to the question. Because that's not always easy. But I try not to over prepare when I'm thinking so much about them and their strategic plan and their organizational chart. I have that, but I spend more time reviewing the successes that I've had and the challenges that I've had to learn from, so I can best answer the questions when they say, tell me what happens, what you would do in this situation. And to me, that's where the rubber meets the road. When have you had to, what mistake have you had that you've had to learn about? And I'm able to talk about that. Talk about a time when you've had to, transition a coach or a staff member. And I'm able to articulate that. To me, that is the most important thing. You got to nail two things I always tell people, and I'll make sure I do. You have to be able to answer the question, why this university? And I always say it's like a great first date. It's like a date. When you're dating someone, you want to have an answer custom to that person. So I don't want to come to New Orleans because I like gumbo and I like the South. I want to come here because, I saw them play. We played against them before, and I saw how raucous the crowd was and how exuberant this city was. I've lived in, minority majority cities of Memphis, Atlanta, Houston, and I've thrived and excelled in those cities. I know what it is to have being a basketball city with the name of the city across the chest, like I did in Memphis and New Orleans. It's analogous because you represent the city in a way that no other institution in that city recommends. So I'm able to throw that out as to why I want to be here at the University of New Orleans. And then when they ask you, tell me something about yourself, you got to hit that succinctly. You can't go on too long because everybody sitting around the table want to ask their questions. And if you don't give them a chance to answer their questions, then that's going to be a demerit against you.
Yeah, one of the questions that really throw people off is why, the why. And that's
Right.
always something like the why. Any coach that's watching this, if your job ever comes open, the basketball job ever come open, you just kind of gave them the answer to the test.
Right.
So to
You
speak.
you need to talk about why this job makes sense for you.
Right.
Why it makes sense. And I think the best answers are 75% professional and about 25% personal. Personal, right. Okay for personal being there. I wouldn't leave with it ever. Mm-hmm. Somebody told me I love New Orleans. That's why I want to come here. That's awesome, but that shouldn't be the first thing you say.
That should be the first thing, right? And one of the things that a lot of people, even with rising coaches, we do the Next Up initiative with the top coaches in the country that we prepare them for interview. And I always say, do things in threes. Give a statement, provide an example, and give the outcome.
Right.
And I said, if you stick to that, I said, you're going to be okay, doing the interview process. And also the toughest question is the softball question. Tell me about yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And most people don't realize that one question, the first 3 minutes, it shouldn't take no more than 3 minutes.
Get in and then get out.
It can basically, hurt your chances from the outset, as well. So, and that's
I try to reframe that question too, TJ. Mm-hmm. For the people I'm interviewing, I ask them, tell me something about yourself that's not on your resume.
Right.
Automatically go down the resume. Like you told me, tell me your background or how you got here. Then I'm gonna go through the litany. Right. But tell me something about yourself that that's not on your resume. That should be something that's short and succinct. That's relevant to that institution if possible.
Well, that's true. A lot of people, miss that question, believe it or not. And 9 times out of 10, that takes them out of any consideration. And you're just sitting there for the next hour talking to the committee or whomever who basically is no longer interested in having you part of this process as well. Tim, absolutely. Let me take a commercial break. I got to pay some bills. And we'll come back, finish talking about the right fit. I'm with Vice President of Athletics and Recreation for the University of New Orleans, Mr. Tim Duncan.
The Right Fit Podcast is brought to you by Rising Coaches Search and Consulting. Tired of spending what seems like all of your time and budget filling coaching vacancies? Let Rising Coaches Search and Consulting handle your next coaching search. Our process is simple. We identify, vet, and recruit a talented and diverse group of professionals that fits your institution's profile, all for a low price that we guarantee will beat our competitions. Plus, all of your searches will be handled by former coaches, meaning we will get the best possible insight on all of your candidates, and you'll get the perspective that only a former coach could provide. For testimonials, a full client list, or more information, please visit risingcoaches.com.
Welcome back to the Right Fit Podcast. I'm with my guest today, and I'm going to shorten the title a little bit. Tim Duncan, Director of Athletics. No,
That's a
Vice
mouthful.
President of Athletics and Recreation at the University of New Orleans. Let's talk about some of the things. I'm going to try to combine this question based on your culture, resources, location, and facilities at University of New Orleans. Describe the type of individual that would be an ideal fit. Because a lot of times what happens is, particularly in coaching situations, when I tell coaches when they're going for a job, you got to understand what they're looking for, what kind of fit you may be. You can't go in there if they don't have the resources to think you're going to get those resources and have delusional grandeur. So talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that. This is a coaching show, and that's important for the coaches to hear from somebody like you who is running a Division I athletic program.
Yeah, I think culture-wise, man, you have to be comfortable in New Orleans, and that was something that the search firm told me that we had to be. And to me, that's code for being in a city that's minority majority. I mean, so that's a reality. New Orleans is, there are parts of the city that's gritty, and there are parts of the city that are beautiful.
Right.
All of it's beautiful, but some people may equate socioeconomic with beauty, and New Orleans has all of that. So I think people have to be comfortable here in this city and embrace it. I think people can see through if you don't really enjoy being here, and it will be tough for you to get things done, from recruiting local kids to identifying with our alums and donors and corporate families. So I think that's the number one thing, that you have to make sure that you're comfortable in an environment like this. We're a public institution, so things take a little bit longer than at private institutions. That's important. In community service and being a part of community, our hashtag is hashtag NOLA's team, and that's our marketing campaign that will be probably 2 or 3 more years. But it's more than that. It's in our DNA. So we give back to the city. Our student athletes led the country in community service hours, because I think that by giving back to the city, they'll give back to us. That's important for people to embrace that. It's important to understand that this is a collaborative relationship. I'll give you an example. Our coach Slash, I think he's done a tremendous job. He was used to having autonomy over scheduling. And that's interesting, because basketball coaches typically are, but no football coaches are, or rarely are football coaches have that. And so we had to have conversations about juggling guarantee games with non-D1 games that, at this level that you play, that could be wins, with games of Division I opponents that we got to have in our building. So, for fans, because our fans were telling me that we don't want to go to see a whole bunch of teams that are non-D1 that we don't know who they are. So we're not going to pay to come to that. But I understand if you're playing 5 or 6 guarantee games, you need to kind of be in the same range so you can be inter-conference about the same. So that was Coach Celeste and I had a lot of dialogue about that, and we've gotten to a really good place. But he had to trust me, and I asked him, I said, Coach, trust that I want the same thing as you want. I want you to be successful. So we've done a good job, and I think it helps because I may have a little bit of credibility just because I played basketball and been at several basketball-focused schools. 5 institutions I've been to haven't had football. 1 has. So that gives me a little bit more credibility, and he trusted me, and I think we've gotten to a good place, and I think this season bears out to that. We were in first place a very long time, ended up tied for the second best record and the 3rd seed in the conference. But I think part of that is because we created our own MTE here in New Orleans. So we got 3 Division I teams to come in here and play. We won 2 out of 3 and probably should have won the 3rd, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. Sometimes we play some local non-D1s, but their fans get to come to the games. We played, we had 6 guaranteed games scheduled, but 2 got canceled for COVID. So that helped our schedule. Obviously, by not playing them, we didn't get that revenue, but those are tough games to win. So I think we got to a good place. I think he and I talk scheduling a lot. It's not my decision, not his decision. It's our collective decision. So any coach that will come here, we work together on that. That has to be the thing, because we have to balance a couple of things.
Yeah. Let's talk about some do's and don'ts. Give me your 3 do's in interviewing and those 3 don'ts when interviewing.
Let's go to don'ts first. So I think we talked about, don't take too long to answer questions. Nail the question as to why us, and tell me about yourself. You got to nail those two questions. I think coaches struggle with bringing the manifesto, I like to call it.
I like that.
Yeah, the binder.
Yep.
I don't know any ADs that read it. I read them because, particularly with basketball, I care about that. But I think a don't think the job is all about basketball. It's about your culture, about how you interact with the students. How can you help with, fundraising for your program, how good of a colleague you are to people across campus, how good a colleague you are to the rest of the coaches. Are you showing up at other people's events? Are you advising your student athletes to show up at other people's events? So those things are really important to when we're looking at coaches. For the don'ts. For the do's, the opposite of that. I mean, you got to be a good team player. Sometimes decisions that are best for the department may not be what's best for the program at the moment. And I understand that I expect you to advocate for your program at all times, but sometimes those decisions won't go their way. And you should have those knockdown dragouts in the office, and they're fine. But once everyone leaves, you got to be on the same page. So that's the do. You got to be a good team player. You got to support, the other. You got to be a great colleague to folks on campus. We're not a big enough program or institution to be isolated in a box from the campus. We have to work successfully with them, so you can't be an asshole to admissions and that kind of stuff. You can't do it. And then, be available for your student athletes. That's the number one thing. I don't mind any coach coaching them hard, but I think you have to love them up as much as you coach them hard. They have to know you care about them as people, and you're interested in not only them but what their interests are. And the more you show them that, the harder you can coach them and challenge them in a respectful way. You can't dog cuss kids like probably you and I were dog cuss back in the days.
That was a term of endearment, we thought.
Yeah. Now you have to build a relationship. We did.
Yeah, that's how we knew coaches cared. Yeah.
Right. Now you have to build relationships in a different kind of way. I think you can coach them hard, but you have to do it in a respectful way because people are just built differently. And you have to realize that. There's a quote in the movie I like to talk about, Moneyball. Brad Pitt said, "Adapt or die."
Yep.
And as coaches, we have to. I'm not a coach, but coaches. But as administrators and working with young people, we all have to adapt or die.
Yeah, and that's the culture now in collegiate athletics. With a lot of coaches that are older now that I coached against, they call me now talking about being able to adapt to the athletes of today, and even administrators being able to adapt to the changing culture in collegiate athletics. And that leads me into the next question. Are there any industry trends that one needs to be abreast of? As you know, collegiate athletics everything is changing so rapidly, across the board, with the NCAA getting ready to probably amend some things, make some changes. They're re-examining how they do business. Now you got the NIL, you got all this stuff going on in collegiate athletics. Are there any trends potentially for people to look at in terms of transitioning into collegiate athletics? That's going to be like the go-to. That's going to be something that's very much needed.
Yeah, I think the player empowerment is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And coaches at the college level need to understand and embrace how the coaches at the NBA level coach. They look at their like partnerships. For far too long, college coaches have been dictators, and they've been able to say and do what they wanted to do without a whole bunch of repercussions. And that has changed, and we have to embrace that and look at them as partners in this thing. When it comes to revenue, when it comes to revenue with NIL, and those are decisions that they're making. When it comes to whether they're going to stay or jump in the transfer portal, I look at it again as a relationship. We have to earn the right to coach them on a daily basis. It's just like a relationship with your significant other, whether it's, your significant other. If you're not treating that person right, they're going to leave. And that's the same thing with student athletes. And there's a lot of student athletes, we have to remember they're young. They may leave because something is shiny or new over there. And I think you look at it, I'm a glass half full person. So I look at it as they walk out and leave over there, then somebody else is going to be attracted to what we have to offer. And all you can do is pour into what you can. And the ones that are meant that receive it best, if you're genuinely doing that, you'll be able to reach them and grow from there. But there'll be a small fraction that won't feel it and want to go somewhere else. And we got to be okay with that.
Well, you know what? It's such a trend now with just the turnover, not just on the athletic teams. Before, being a Division I athletic director, dealing with the APR. One of the things that, of course, NCAA has got to look at is that APR now with players switching, transferring, and all that kind of stuff. I could see them strictly abolishing that at some point in time, unless they change the rules back where if you do transfer, you got to sit out a year. But right now, with the one-time transfer exception across the board, you're going to continue to, see this trend. Even in the athletic administration realm, there's a lot of turnover in departments. The younger generation, they're moving. They're looking to move. The average expectancy in the job now compared to when you and our parents were working, it's like 2.2 years now where you can keep somebody. And now the trend is, even with turnover, that's not looked bad upon on your resume if you turn it over. It's not. We know in the past that was. So, as I tell even the young coaches I looking to transition into administration or some other parts of sports, I said it's totally changed now where you can pick up and just move around and, do all that stuff. So, the trends are changing, and I try to keep them abreast of those things to make sure they understand that as well. My final question, and this is the fun question. I love word association.
Oh, here we go.
I say the first thing, I say a word, you say the first thing that comes to mind. It's not going to, and some people.
All right, here we go.
University of Memphis.
Home.
Family.
Surround me. That's 2 words. But
that's okay. Collegiate athletics.
My passion.
And the University of New Orleans.
Home number 2.
Tim, thank you for taking the time this afternoon to join me today here on The Right Fit. I want to thank the viewers and listeners for tuning in as well. Join me next Friday with another great guest from the world of professional sports of collegiate athletics. Until then, I am Darryl Jacobs. Please stay healthy, stay safe, and have a great weekend.